after July 8th.
Oh,
Any other questions you guys may have on legacy or resident?
Questions? Anybody?
Nice
Well,
job,
guys,
great
I
job.
will tell you, the middle school, it's a large project, as you know. There will be phase turnovers, like we do in a lot of our buildings. It is an extensive turnover process. That process has already started. You have guys have already started moving some furniture in certain areas. We met with Brandon and Thomas this week, and we developed kind of a schedule of who does what, when you need certain areas, and we're trying to accommodate those areas when we can. I think we're going to be able to make all the accommodations you need. Luckily, thankfully, we're kind of ahead of the game out here on this one so far, so everything's going as smooth as it can be. There are some challenges that we're facing, but we're hitting them head on, and we're tackling them and getting through them as best we can. So you should see, like you said, we've got a partial TCO, a temporary certificate of occupancy, for portions of the middle school that you haven't moved into, kind of, sort of. We anticipate having another TCO on the other half of the building, which is the admin and classroom area, by the end of next week, I believe. And then hopefully we'll be able to get a permanent CFO somewhere around the 10th of July, which is when you guys can are scheduled to start putting in your technology in the IDF rooms. But right now, the building is secure every night.
What's the expectation of that phase of work, the technology? So for you, our goal is to get a principal on site in July, or as early as July as we possibly can, and start operating.
While it's going on, our plan is to have people operate off air cards in the initial phase they get there. Probably have the contractors that we have hired to do the switches work specifically in the D area first to get it up and running. That's where the main MDF is. And then once that's up and running, then they can move down to the remaining classroom in those areas. So
Is that expected to be complete before school year?
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
the biggest part of that was the cabling. And so the cabling's already been run, and we've already done the cabling, so our vendors,
It's a matter of switches and plugging in the switches to
yeah.
get it.
But we don't want to put any of that in there until we can really secure the building to make sure, because all that infrastructure is highly expensive. Yeah.
And talking to the technology department, that should take about a week and a half to 2 weeks. So from the moment we are able to lock those IDS and MDF rooms, we're going to give them the green light to start installing switches.
And we believe worst case scenario on that will be July the 8th.
And then
Also
also,
rest of July and half of August.
I've done a really great job.
Thank you.
we've
Brad?
taken a first shot as well at, since the high school is going to be an operating construction site while Resnick is still getting going. Joris has come up with a plan on what we're going to do to separate job site from pedestrians. So we're going to take a first shot at that, and then we'll probably run, whoever wants to go out and take a look at, just to make sure y'all are good with, they're going to do some fencing with some windscreen to kind of hide some of the ugly of the construction side, just to make it nice for the first day of school. So
Yeah, the other thing I was gonna bring up is we did move out. You guys have been out there, you've seen our trailer compound where we were officing. Well, we demobilized that. So that was technically on what I would consider the middle school site. Now that's gone, so the middle school site is completely occupied by you guys 100%. And we have moved our operation into one of the rooms in the high school. So we will be able to separate the high school site, if you will, from everything else out there. It will be just like it's a regular construction site around public roads, which are arterial roads or public roads. So we're trying to keep our future operations completely separate from your school operations once you start school. And as Thomas just said, we're going to give it a dry run with him first to make sure he's happy, and then whoever else wants to come out there and take a look, we'll make you guys happy with that too.
And we have talked with our transportation department too, so they're aware of what they're going to be receiving on that first day of school and how the deliveries or drop-offs and pickups are going to work. So we're getting the ball rolling.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
one last thing on the construction report, I passed out a handout that Mr. Garcia put together. This is the observation report on the professional portable. The pictures are as of last Thursday, So since then, everywhere in this that you see wood studs and sheet and insulation bats, all of that has been sheetrocked, and first layer of the tape and mud has been put on the walls. They're doing second layer today. Should be shooting texture hopefully by the end of the week and starting to paint inside that building. Ceiling tile is planning on going into the main building in the lobby area starting next Monday. And also next Monday, they'll start doing the Durock and tile work inside the bathroom. So that job is coming along. Shouldn't be anything that holds us up from completing by the August 1st date. So just anybody have any questions on that job, I can go through this with you if you want.
Any questions?
Do you have any information, comments on the similar damage from the storm that's still ongoing?
Yes, sir. The storm, the wind damage here at the main campus was pretty considerable. Not as bad as when we had the hailstorm back in 13 as far as price-wise, because we didn't lose any roofs this time, but we had considerable tree damage. We lost, we had an engineer come in and check all of our light poles because some of those were leaning. One of them actually got snapped off right here in front of Southwest Elementary. 10 of those poles are going to need to be replaced. We're getting the quotes. Should have gotten the last quote this afternoon. I didn't see it when I left to come up here, but that work is going on. The tennis court fencing, the north wall, the windscreen gave way halfway but didn't give enough, so that the whole fence came down, all the fabric came off. That has been temporarily put back up, but we're going to have to get new chain link fabric because it had gotten stretched beyond repair. So they're going to have to replace that whole wall and all the windscreen. The baseball field, when they come out to do the tennis court, the baseball field, left field foul line is down. That will go back up when that contractor comes back on board. We lost the batting cage on the left field wall, left field foul line of the softball field. That one was only a matter of the top rail got blown off, so we were able to repair that pretty easy with our own staff. Everybody knows about the rain we had, the flood. We lost considerable amount of trees in the river bottom, and we are in the process of getting a quote from a contractor to come out and help us clean up the cross-country track because of the amount of trees and brush that was down there, not only from the windstorm, but then on top of that, the flood pushed everything that was loose and laying up against that one side of the cross-country track. So we have considerable cleanup down there, and we were just able to start getting down there this week. It finally dried out enough to get a truck in there. So we're continuing with that, as well as the Bob Hope campus had, because of the amount of water that we had, and that building has an integral gutter design in it, because we got like 4 inches of rain in a 10-minute time frame, the gutter did not have enough relief to spill the water out, and so the water backed up behind some of the flashing and flooded about 6 rooms that in turn had water damage that we've had to now rip out, and there's an item of going before the board tonight about that. So that has been completely demoed, and we're having the air test tomorrow to clear us to go ahead and do the putback, and we got the quote today for the putback, so that'll all come up in that item later in the meeting. So
I want to commend the facility maintenance on the morning of that event, about 4 a.m. They all started to arrive because vehicles couldn't even enter because there was trees laying far from the arch. So they came out here in a matter of 2 hours, made this place operational. They have continued to work. Like I say, we drove down River Bottom today, and the immediate area is pretty immaculate.
Yeah, it really looks great. I was very surprised.
we've had to clean the grass. We had to water as much as we could to get all that silt and dirt off the grass before it burned it and killed it. So we're trying to do that. So, and I just want to take a minute. All of our guys, but specifically our grounds guys, have been working Saturdays, Sundays, late evenings, coming in early. With the amount of rain and the heat now, the grass is just out of control, and so we're doing the best we can to keep up with it. I just want you all to know that they're putting in the hours, and so I try and thank them every day that I can for the work they're putting in, because they're getting beat up, especially with all the work we've been doing in the river bottom. So if you see them, tell them.
You know, on that insurance down there, on this flood, those pecan trees are worth about $100,000 apiece.
Well, if they are, we're gonna,
Limb, you have to take it limb by limb when you figure that.
That's right. We lost some considerably large pecan trees.
I mean, seriously, they ought to be worth something. I don't know how that works, whether you insure a tree or not.
well, we're gonna see her on Thursday and we'll ask her.
Yeah, we'll ask her if they were insurable,
Yeah.
so.
How about the riverbank itself? Was there any damage to it?
No, sir, the berm that we have around the football field, nothing, it crested right at the top and then started to overflow, and then at one point, for a couple hours, just flowed in and over the top, so it wasn't like in 2007, when it was actually, there was water running across the football field, it was all moving. This was more low-key and just a kind of a setting water in the field, so it wasn't as bad as far as damage to the field. We were lucky there, but it does take a toll with all the mud and silt and everything on the field. So,
You know, the practice field was real fun. The one in the back, the other one looks good too.
yeah, the cross-country track unfortunately will probably be out of commission until right up to the August 1st date where cross-country starts, so that's the one that we're gonna do the best we can.
Were we doing the repairs in those, did we go up high enough on that?
Yes, sir. We had Clean Environments came in, and they did all the testing, and they gave a recommendation on what it was. And so there were a few areas where we had to go a little bit higher than 2 foot, but not very many. So that, but that still, and the same with both of these, the main campus and Bob Hope, unfortunately, our insurance deductible is $100,000 per occurrence. So we're not going to go over $100,000 at either site. We're going to get right to it, but we're not going to go over it. So we're going to end up having to pay for everything out of pocket.
Limbs down there worth a lot.
We'll see what she tells us on Thursday.
Thanks, Thomas. All right, tax report.
Compared to 2014, we're still about 3.5% down.
One you
I know.
guy, taxes down. All right, financial report, investment report, gifts, questions. Over $25,000, questions on that? All right, update EIA and DNB.
When we proposed the calendar, we wanted to take a look at what we could do to streamline our grading periods, but also to align our benchmark testing and what we did in CNI. So the first update would be the policy EIA local, which addresses putting all of our campuses on the 6-week grading period as opposed to elementary being on 9 weeks. And then the other policy we're coming to you to update is DNB, and this addresses the two new evaluation systems, the T-test for our principals and then the T-test for our teachers. So A1 is for the principals and A2 would be for our teachers. So at this time, this is information for you. We'll bring back at the next board meeting for your approval on it. Any questions in regards to the two policies?
Anybody have any questions on that?
No.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, update CH.
CH Local is a board policy that deals with purchasing.
Afternoon, sir.
And currently, our purchasing threshold for board approval is $25,000. Texas Education Code 44-312 requires any school districts that make any purchases over $50,000 to do one of the 7 procurement methods. And the district would like for the board to take a look at aligning the board threshold with the actual state threshold for procurement. That kind of puts us in line with our RFP system and our processes and our bidding. And it also, dealing with a new law, House Bill 1295, anytime the district brings an item to the board for approval, there is a new method for vendors to go to the Ethics Commission. They have to fill out a conflict form. It has to be submitted through the Ethics Commission and then submitted to the district, and then we have to acknowledge it. And so it's another checks and balance by the state, but it's also another obstacle for purchases. And so looking at the threshold there, I put on here what the local districts around in San Antonio area are. So this gives you an idea of where we are compared to the rest of the districts. And so it's just for you to look at and then we would bring it back to next board meeting for approval if you feel like that's something that the board would like to do.
Questions? All right, moving on. Item I, energy conservation.
Yes, sir. This is an item that we, a couple of times in the meeting with Mr. Vasquez, and they're talking about some opportunities that may exist within our districts to learn about some energy conservation, to update equipment and things. So I will turn it over to Mr. Vasquez, and I think he's going to introduce some folks who are joining us today to apply his professional.
Okay. First of all, apologize for being late. I was at jury meeting. I was this close to being selected. Literally came straight from downtown here. But I'm here. I'd like to introduce Dr. Roy and Mike. Mike, how are you? Sorry I didn't get the chance to say hello to you guys. ABM is a national company, have several branches, but the branch that I've been closely working with is energy conservation. And they have a method of updating school districts and cities, county governments, buildings in a way that you spend money that's already being spent for keeping it simple. But at this time, I'll turn it over to Dr. Roy.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Christoph, board members, thank you for allowing us some time this evening. We're happy to be back in San Antonio. As we talk about this, first I have to tell you that as I've been a superintendent for 16 years, I never missed a board meeting for 16 years. And I have to tell you, they're still just the same. We're about the same deal. As you can see, as we talk about this, we're talking about providing guaranteed financial solutions. That's a key word as we go through this, the word guaranteed. As we talk about the savings going to be realizing that because of federal state legislation, those savings are not maybe savings. Those are savings that are guaranteed. If we don't meet those, we have to write you a check. So I think that's important. About ABM, so let's talk a little bit about us, but this is ABM in Texas, just for a little edification. HVAC and mechanical, we've got 35,000 plus working in Texas now. Installed and maintained 300 plus charging stations, and we won't go through all of this, more than 200 engineers. We employ more than 12,500 Texans. And we've got offices and locations across the state, obviously, to do that. So it's a major. Also, we'll have a sheet later on, I think, we're also listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Okay, what I'm going to talk about today a little bit is about Texas district trends. And I'm going to belabor that too much because this group, you live with those trends every day. What's going on, and you watch Austin, and Dr. Christoph, I'm sure you're on Texas ISD on a regular basis, and what's going on in this, and it's not been a real pretty picture. We'll talk about how the program works a little bit, about the timeline, and why we think it would be a good idea to choose ABM for this work. Okay, the 2016 school report. We had a 2013 school report we had on this presentation before, and ironically, all the items listed up there are still just the same. Okay. So over that period of time, you still have mounting deferred maintenance, and let me kind of put that in perspective. 2008, you were already deferring maintenance, and then the legislature took $5 billion away from Texas public schools. $5 billion. Okay, now they put some back, but they haven't put it all back, and they haven't dealt with inflation to that. So at that time, things that you were putting off, that you might have even had a replacement schedule for roofs and all kinds of things. Buses. I can remember when we used to say school buses had a life of maybe 12, maybe 15 years. Now I see a lot of districts running school buses 20 years. That's not by choice. That's the result of what's happened with deferred maintenance. and the other thing I thought was interesting is you were going through your presentation on your construction project. Isn't it interesting that local communities have seen fit and have stepped up to support their public schools, and in Austin they can't figure out how to do that. That makes absolutely no sense to me. It seems to me the voters are telling the state that they want to support schools, they want quality schools. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox on that. Okay. So we've reduced capital spending. 25% of spending is on existing buildings. So when you pass a bond, the vast majority of that money goes for the new facilities that you're putting in. Okay, energy is an increasing expense, tremendous general fund challenges. So what happens is, let me go to this next one. I think this is really key. This gets back to that comment I made. This is in 2008 when you see here were our resources and our revenues, our demands and revenues were about the same. It's that $5 billion hiccup we took. Right? And you see as we've come back and we've come back, and we've still got this gap, and we're going to help try to fund that gap a little bit for you. The other thing I think we've got to keep in mind is that I said $40 a barrel oil, you know, who knows? You know, as time wears on and what the impact of that's going to be when the legislature comes back to Austin, you know. Remember that, as the superintendent officer, I said there are only two things that ever really frightened me, okay? One of those was cheerleader elections, and the other was the legislature meeting, okay? So we're going to, you know, every year you get both of those, or every other year you get both of those. So the future state funding, and again, in their wisdom, the Supreme Court decided that our school finance system is just totally broken. Doesn't work, it's not accomplishing, but they said it was constitutional. Okay. So what that means is that if you're going to get any help, help's going to come from here. Okay. At least for the short haul, that's going to be the case. So program overview. The key piece of this is over in this corner. Texas Education Code Section 44901. And a lot of states have done this, but basically what it says is if we come in and we do our song and dance, we tell you we're going to save you this money and that, and the state says, yeah, you can do that. By the way, if we don't realize those savings, that gets back to the guarantee that I talked about. We don't realize those guarantees, that's when it comes in and we have to write a check. So we're very conservative in estimating what those savings are going to be. Now, the beauty of that is when the savings come in, if they're greater than we had projected, you know, we don't jump up and down at ABM and say, look how much extra money we made, because we are locked in at that amount. Any additional savings are realized by the school district, not us. Okay. I think that's a key piece to that. So, and obviously we do this through lighting and controls, heating and cooling systems, some renewable energy perhaps, and water conservation. If you're like me, Mike and I both live in Frisco, our water bills are now exceeding our electric bills. It's amazing what's happened, you know, water demands. So, if you look at this, what's happening, Southwest ISD is spending $3.1 million a year on utilities, okay? And your future annual cost program we put in place, we estimate that would be $2,325,000. That's a savings of $775,000. Put that into perspective for you. Okay, 12 months, okay, about $60,000 a month. Okay. $60,000 a month, that when that money is gone, it is gone forever. Okay, because you're not going to realize that back. You spent that money on utilities, and that money is gone. And what happens is, until you fix that problem, you'll continue to lose that amount. You know, I think at the last time we spoke, I mentioned the fact that, you know, school districts, you know, if we find out we have somebody stealing from us, we get rid of them, we fire them that day. Okay. What you've got is you've got energy programs that are stealing from you every day, stealing $60,000 a month from you. Think about that. So what you got here is you've got a choice, and I really don't think it's much of a choice. You've got this $775,000. You continue to send it over here to the utility companies, or you can make a change. You can fix this and fix this equipment, replace that, the conservation measures we put in place, and send that money back to the school district for time back. Okay, let me let Mr. Reese pick up there.
Good evening. So Jerry talked a little bit about the process, how it works. I really wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about what we saw. We were fortunate enough to be able to come out here 4 to 6 weeks ago and do what we call a preliminary audit. It's not an investment grade detailed audit. We brought some of our engineering staff in, and we were able to go through these 8 buildings and looking at primary buckets of HVAC, lighting, controls, and water conservation. Those are kind of the big things that we're going to start out at a preliminary looking for. So first of all, I wanted to say, you know, we do this all over Texas, all over the United States. Your buildings are very well cared for. The equipment you have is in great operating condition. You're getting the useful life out of it. That's a great thing. I see a lot of districts where a lot of that is not happening, unfortunately. You know, you have equipment with a 15 or 20-year life, and you may be lucky to get 8 to 10 years out of it. So that is not happening here. So what we're going to be talking about is how do we take newer technology, LED lighting, higher efficiency HVAC equipment, So we're talking about how do we fund improving the equipment you have, taking care of some of those deferred maintenance needs. So again, I won't read this to you. We've already talked about what we looked at, HVAC controls, water, things of that nature. We had some discussions with the facility department. Obviously, they understand the pains that are out in the buildings they live and have to keep those things running and maintained on a daily basis. So from that, we really want to form a high-level, what we call ECM list, energy conservation measures. And then from a preliminary standpoint, it'll be fairly high level. If we're fortunate enough to move to the investment grade audit phase, which is the next step, and we'll get to that slide in a couple minutes, that'll be a lot more detailed. That'll get down to granular level of everything from lighting, controls, water conservation, even small things like we'll look at vending misers if you have vending machines in your district. How do we operate those almost like a Nest thermostat and scale them up and roll them back based upon your operating hours? So next couple of slides, these are just kind of high-level overview of what we saw, and this is not too uncommon of what we see at most school districts. Lighting is a big driver. LED is a big part of that. Lighting cost, LED has come down now, whereas several years ago it was fairly cost prohibitive, and lighting ends up funding a lot of the savings that we can drive to maybe help pay for other things that we'd like to do that maybe don't have that great of a payback. Water and irrigation, like Jerry alluded to, water used to be kind of an ancillary thing we would look at, and now it's really right behind electricity. Most schools spend more in water than they do in natural gas nowadays. So water is a very big part of this. Looking at automation and controls, how you use and the control you have in your buildings is huge. Your buildings are probably utilized on nights and weekends for basketball and camps and Boy Scouts and all those things. So have the ability to succinctly control those areas goes a long way in helping driving savings. And of course, common things like HVAC. So you see some pictures of things we found out there, that some equipment that obviously would be prime candidates for upgrade and replacement. And again, I talked about the IGA. We'll look at everything there, from building envelope things as small as window film and weather stripping, hand drying technologies. We're really going to look at anything that we think can grab waste and save you guys on your utility expenditures. So again, I want to just revisit this again. So what we are talking about doing is funding this project with money you are already spending. So we would like to take that waste we can grab by improving your technology in your buildings and redirecting that into your buildings. So you basically, instead of giving that money to your utility provider, you're investing it in your infrastructure. So why now? This is the common question I get from a lot of districts. Well, we can do this one-off. We can do this one at a time. We set aside a little bit of money at the end of the year, and those are all great things to do. But here's one of the reasons we like to take a look at it in a comprehensive approach. One is you're already spending the money, as we discussed. This is a mechanism that lots of districts utilize, so you don't have to go to your taxpayers and say, we would like these improvements to be part of a bond, whether that be an existing bond or a one-off. Part of this program, when we bring it to you, has to include everything. Part of that is the cost of money. Cost of money right now, as we're actually working with several districts, we're seeing interest rates in 1.5% to 2.5%. So the money is extremely low right now, which makes this very attractive. Like Jerry said, with the budget cuts back starting in 2008, deferred maintenance is one of the first things to go. So support staff, custodial, maintenance, grounds, all those kind of things are the first things to cut to minimize the impact on the classroom. And what happens is 5 to 10 years after that, you start to see the buildup and accumulated effect of not addressing some of those deferred maintenance needs. There is state code. This is not something that ABM has made up. We do this all over the nation. There is a specific code in Texas, 44.901, that lays out strict parameters and a process on how a district would do this. And again, you have the financial guarantee. So if year one we say we're going to save you $775,000 and we save you $700,000, by law we have to come back and write a check to you. It shows great financial stewardship, obviously. And then one of the things, we actually have a marketing team that works with the district to help promote and tout this. This is a great thing. You can show your community. We'll get ENERGY STAR ratings for your buildings and things of that nature. So Jerry alluded to the process a little bit. Where we are right now, obviously, we're here at the board presenting the findings and what we saw in the preliminary. What we would like to do as the next step is come back to you in July and have a little discussion and approval to move into the investment grade audit. The investment grade audit is the detailed engineering study, scope of work. It'll be the blueprint on how we go out and achieve all these different projects. From there, we'll go out and do the investment grade audit. A district of this size, you're probably looking at 60 to 90 days conservatively We can probably beat that, but I'd like to overpromise and overdeliver. And then once that is done, I do want to make sure that it's clear that the investment grade audit is not us dictating to you, here's what we're going to do in your buildings. It's a very collaborative process with the maintenance department, the construction department, to make sure we're implementing technologies that you guys feel strongly in. So for example, we may come to you and say, hey, we think the best application for a rooftop unit here would be this carrier system because X, Y, and Z. And we may get some feedback that says, well, we don't have a local carrier provider within a 2-hour radius. We would prefer to use Train. So there's a lot of give and take and collaborative approach to this, because at the end of the day, we're guaranteeing the results, and we need to make sure that we're leaving a project here that can deliver those results. So after the IGA is done, we would come back and get final approval to move forward with the project. And again, that project, dependent upon the size and scope of it, a lot of those things will be done at nights and weekends, over breaks, obviously with a focus on not disturbing any classroom environment at all. So here's a couple of other associations and accreditations we have, and just wanted to throw that up there and kind of open the floor up to any questions that you guys may have for us.
Questions?
I just want to make sure I understand. And I've heard this a couple times, but I'm trying to make this as simple as possible so I, the board member, can understand. Guaranteed lock-in savings, okay? Right now, we're using 3.1 that we're spending, lowering it down to 2.3 with a $775,000 guarantee. Doing that by working with our HVAC, lighting, support systems, and water mainly, all at one time. If savings is more, we keep the difference.
Yes, sir.
If savings is less, you write a check.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's real important. There's a lot of, there's various types of energy programs out there, and a lot of them have a shared savings model. So if you would exceed the 775, it would be a 50-50 split or whatever that arrangement may be. That is not the case here. By law, we are projecting a savings on an annual basis. In this case, was 775. If that comes in at 850, you are a positive cash flow $75,000 in that example.
And then the other thing I want to make sure if I got this right is the only way we realize this type of savings all at one time is by doing it all at one time, obviously. So, and we have a choice of either doing it the ABM, I'm calling it the ABM process, or spend bond money in general funds and do it in-house all at one time. So those are pretty much the only two ways we can realize it all. If we do it a little bit at a time, obviously we'll realize a little savings.
Right.
But it won't be such a big.
And there's no right or wrong. It's really about what's the right application for the district.
Money we're already spending.
Yeah, let me address a couple things you pointed out, Mr. Bassett. Also that, now you can do that yourself a little bit at a time, but, you know, scale is important. And when you drop that scale, then obviously, if you do this one piece at a time, it's going to cost you more than if you do multiple pieces at a time. That's the way that works. The other thing is when you talk about using either bond money or using fund balance, I think I'd be very cautious, from my vantage point, and your vantage point as superintendent, with what's going to go on in Austin, and what are the emergencies, what are the crises, things you're going to have to deal with, where you may need that fund balance for other things. This gives you an opportunity to get rid, and if you don't need that, you can always pay it off early. I just think it's a real advantage that the state has given you an opportunity to put yourselves in a better financial position with some security in your fund balance. You know, one of the things about this that I like to tell people is it's kind of like that Chinese proverb. You know, when's the best time to plant a tree? Best time to plant a tree was yesterday. Second best time is today.
Was it raining?
Those pecan trees.
That we used to plant it.
What districts y'all working with in San Antonio?
Across the state, I don't know in San Antonio specifically, but we're actually working with, we just started working with Edgewood in Dallas, Ysleta in El Paso, Harris County Department of Education in Houston.
Anybody in San Antonio?
Not for we actually done a lot of work in San Antonio, but not specifically a performance contract job, to my knowledge. But I'll research that for you.
And the preliminary savings that you're discussing only includes the campuses you listed on there?
No, that's extrapolated out district-wide. So during the investment grade audit, we would obviously go out and visit every campus, but we took a selective sampling and then tried to extrapolate that out, and usually we're pretty close on that.
So the audit will include more campuses, is that what you're saying?
Right, again, what we did here was a preliminary audit. It was a very high-level look. We're looking at major low-hanging fruit opportunities. The investment grade audit is a much longer process, a lot more engineering time spent with this. We'll be visiting every campus, looking at large opportunities and small opportunities, anything that we think can save energy or water.
Can I bring up just four, we don't have time to discuss this today, so we're not gonna do that. We'll discuss it in more depth. But I did want to bring up just really four concerns for you to think about. First of all, I don't, and I know Ida doesn't, understand really what you're talking about. I mean, I don't understand, I really don't, I mean.
Well, my question was that I asked him, so you're giving us a list of things that we need to upgrade in order to realize savings, right, utility savings. So we pay for all of those upgrades? So,
Right.
You know, like.
Yeah,
whatever,
and I don't
technical-
expect for you to, I really don't want you to go into detail, I just understand. The step-by-step approach that you use to come up with this savings, I really don't understand. And you haven't explained it either. So there's no reason that I should understand. Number one, we have to have a lot better understanding about the nuts and bolts as this happens. Number two, that includes how this cost breaks down. And, you know, I don't know whether you're talking about you pay all the bills, and of those bills, and we pay you, I don't understand.
Right.
And I just may be slow, but we have to go further. I think thirdly, you saw Mr. Pfluger, and you saw Joris in here today. We first worked with Joris in 1984. We have a relationship with him because we have such great trust over time, and we trust Sylvester, and we know that ABM's a good company. That's not my point. There has to be some level of trust.
Sure.
That it just doesn't appear overnight. We're a very conservative organization, and we're a conservative community, and we would have to have that trust. And I think the last thing I would say is that we need to know what your successes have been in other places. And I'm used to having talked to those people and visited with those people and knowing exactly what kind of relationships you have. I just wanted to mention these four things so that if you come back, we talk further, you can address them.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I find this to be too complex and on one hand, and too nebulous at this point to be able to even comment as to whether I'm interested or not.
Right. And it's not uncommon that we would do those type of things you're talking about in a workshop setting. So maybe there's an opportunity in the future to come back and spend more time and kind of slow down a little bit and be able to ask.
Well, it may be, but it also may be that you could provide us some information, some written information that's more than just talking points, but some other stuff that we can get our hands on.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm just speaking for myself. I don't know how the board feels. I just would not be ready to make a decision on this based on the information that we've got so far.
Yep, understood.
Okay, guys, thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.
You have a good day. All right, moving right along. Postpone superintendent to after executive session. Next thing is business and financing and proposed tax rate.
Yes, the information that you're seeing in front of you is just for the district to publish the 2 notices for the tax rate and hold a public hearing at the next July 19th at 5:30 at the board meeting. It's not to set the tax rate at this moment, but it's just to publicly publish it, the 2 notices, and then hold a public hearing before the board decides to adopt the tax rate or not. So I don't know if there's any question.
So what exactly do you want on this proposed tax rate?
That the board approves the publication of the 2 notices and to the recommendation to
All right,
have a public hearing on July 19th.
everybody's kind of been over what we're looking at here and understands it.
I'm just still concerned about one meeting, is that sufficient
We,
for the community?
we're going to have, well, the intention is to bring back Mr. Walsh to meet with you guys at the next Brown Bag, give you more information, and then go from there and setting up meetings and getting it out to the public, what we want them to.
So we're not sure we will only have one meeting, or is that what you're believing that we'll?
When that's just for the next meeting, just for the board, then we have to still come up with how we were going to,
So the public meeting has not been
yes,
determined.
that's correct.
Other questions?
No, I move. I second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Item B.
Item B is a reimbursement resolution. The district will be selling bonds on July 13th, the last 20 million of the 2012 bond series. And the district would like to move forward with a purchase to get ready for the school, and this purchase is on devices. And the district would like the board to approve the resolution that allows the district to purchase the devices through fund balance, and then after the bond sale, reimburse fund balance in August. And so that's what the resolution does. It allows the district to spend district funds and then reimburse with the bond funds after the bond sale is complete.
By doing this, we're able to make sure our students have devices, technology at the beginning of the school year as opposed to waiting until the end of August.
Yes.
It's a huge help to making sure our kids have the tools they need to start school.
How much is the amount we're gonna spend, and are we sure we're gonna be reimbursed, like, soon enough, or?
Yes, well, the next item is the purchase, and so the purchase is about 1.2 million. And then when the bond sells, as soon as the bond funds come in, we're going to sell bonds on July 13th. Everything should be done by the 1st of August. I say the first, but the first couple weeks of August, and to reimburse fund balance.
Other questions? Need a motion?
I second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Purchase of technology initiative.
And so this is the actual purchase that we were asking to purchase with fund balance and then reimburse. And it's 4,400 Chromebooks to be used at the middle schools and the ninth grade campus with purchase of some carts, and then there's just some additional fees for some tagging and some software updates that have to go along with this. And so the total to fund balance is 1.2 million and to be reimbursed after the sale of the bonds on July 13th. It'll be reimbursed in August.
Questions, comments? Motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Water damage at Bob Hope.
Yes, sir, as we discussed earlier, there is a revised board background that I handed out before the meeting that's on the table in front of you, due to the fact that we received today the quote for the build back portion of the work. So on May 18th, 2016, Bob Hope Elementary's gutter system, due to the high amount of rain that we got in a short period of time, backflowed under the flashing and flooded about 5 or 6, I guess it was 6 rooms, causing water damage and some mildew and mold growth to happen, not to the extent of Sun Valley, but enough to where we had to be concerned and do the air quality tests. So district hired Clean Environments and Gerloff Company to come out and assess the situation, take the air quality tests based on their assessment of the damage and their direction to us. We were actually able to do in-house several, I think we did 5 rooms total that the district actually did the work of drying and catching it before it got to the point of Sun Valley. So we were able to do some of the work ourselves, and Gerloff helped to kind of show us what needed to be done and where. So due to the urgency of the situation, district staff released them to start. The quote from Gerloff Company for remediation and build back is $79,225.22. Unfortunately, this doesn't meet the $100,000 deductible from frost, so this fee will be
You have any trees over there?
no, we didn't have any trees there.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of tree damage, but not like the water damage. So the recommendation is the board approve Gerloff Company for the remediation and build back work for a contract amount of $79,225.22. And like I said before, the remediation portion is done. We'll be taking the air quality tests from where they scrubbed the air to make sure it's clean to go back in tomorrow. And hopefully by maybe Monday, we would be mobilized and starting approximately a week and a half to 2 week process of build back. Shouldn't affect us as far as start of school at all.
Is said the last week of school, we were able to collapse those rooms and
Yes.
move those students into other rooms with other students. So the timing, the zoning silver lining allows us to do this while the kids are not in session, unlike Sun Valley, who basically went through this for a month and a half with their classrooms. We need to get it fixed before we begin the school year.
Other comments? Need a motion?
I move. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Going down to curriculum and instruction, fine arts equipment.
Yes, and tonight we have Mr. Richard Flores here that will present on this purchase. And I want to thank Richard. At the last hour, quite funny, believe it or not, but Richard's at a baseball game and I'm listening to our performance at Carnegie Hall, and I called him in desperate need of this information, and so he was up here till 1 o'clock in the morning with his staff working on getting this together. So thank you very much, Richard. It's very much appreciated.
Feeding off that comment there, what happened that it was so last minute?
We just didn't, a lot of variables in it. It was a lot of moving parts, and I think a lot of it had to do with my transition, just because I didn't know to keep up with certain things, and that was one of them. So to no fault of any, probably other than my own. So thank you, Richard.
So board members, we're asking for a change or an addition of fund balance money for the purchase of Resnick fine arts equipment and instruments. The original proposal just seemed inefficient or insufficient, I should say, to be able to buy all the equipment that's necessary to start up the school. And some other factors came into play. Originally, our thought process was to move some equipment from other schools, but because the other schools did not shrink in size as far as band enrollments and other fine arts enrollments, there really wasn't an ability to borrow from Peter to pay Paul, so to speak. And so at this time, we're proposing to buy all new equipment for the Resnick school.
Y'all washing cars? How are you doing this?
Yes, sir. I'll be in a bikini on Southwest.
Okay, TMI.
No,
We might.
we want money, right?
Thank you for
might
saying
make
that.
money by closing the road off in both directions.